The first time I saw my own obituary, I laughed so hard I cried. It was Black Friday, 3:12 a.m., and the post was already trending under hashtag Rest in Peace Averos. A grainy photo of me, taken at my sister Lennon's engagement party, sat above the caption. Tragic news. Lennon James's maid of honor and older sister, Ava Rose James, passed suddenly last night. Thoughts with the family during this difficult time as they continue planning the St. Regis Punta Mita wedding. I was very much alive, sitting cross-legged on my bathroom floor in yesterday's mascara, holding a half-eaten donut and my phone like it was radioactive. Lennon had killed me off to save $12,000. The money was the remainder of the trust our grandmother left me when I turned 30 next month. 12 grand was all that was left after years of temporary loans for Lennon's acting classes, Lennon's nose job recovery ABNV, Lennon's brand emergencies. Last week my parents quietly moved the final chunk into the non-refundable deposit for her destination wedding. They assumed I'd stay quiet the way I always had. They were wrong. I met Jonah 6 years ago when he showed up to fix the leaky pipe under my kitchen sink. He was wearing a threadbare hoodie and smelled like cedar shavings. He never asked why a 30-year-old woman was crying over a $47 plumbing bill. He just handed me a roll of paper towels and said, "Some leaks are bigger than pipes." That was the first thing he ever said to me. The second thing he said, 6 days ago, after I showed him the forged withdrawal paperwork, was, "Let them bury you. Dead girls don't have to attend their own funerals." So I disappeared. I stopped answering texts. I took a week of bereavement leave from the animal shelter where I work. I let Lennon's tearful TikTok about losing her best friend and sister rack up 2 million views. I watched relatives I hadn't spoken to since 2014 leave praying hands emojis under her post. Jonah, meanwhile, worked late every night. He came home smelling like sawdust and secrets, kissed my forehead, and told me to keep playing dead. On the night of Lennon's intimate, pre-wedding dinner, 300 of her closest brand partners at a rented vineyard, Jonah handed me a black dress and a pair of heels I'd never seen. "Time to haunt somebody," he said. I almost didn't recognize him when he stepped out of the bedroom. The hoodie was gone. In its place, a midnight blue suit cut so sharp it could draw blood. A watch flashed on his wrist that probably cost more than the vineyard we were about to burn down. "Jonah, what is this?" "Later," he said. "First we resurrect you." The dinner was held under a canopy of fairy lights. Lennon stood on a small stage in a white feathered gown, thanking everyone for their support during this heartbreaking time. She dabbed dry eyes with a silk handkerchief. Then she invited the crowd to observe a moment of silence for her tragically deceased sister. That was my cue. I walked straight down the center aisle. Gasps rippled outward like someone had tossed a stone into still water. Lennon saw me last. The handkerchief slipped from her fingers. "Hi, Len," I said into the stunned quiet. "Died so young. Shame." My mother dropped an entire flute of champagne. My father turned the color of raw chicken. Jonah stepped up beside me, took the microphone from the frozen MC, and smiled like a man who had never fixed a pipe in his life. "Good evening," he said. "Some of you know me as the plumber. Most of you don't know me at all. My name is Jonah Whitlock. I own Whitlock and Company, the private equity group that purchased the St. Regis Punta Mita resort 43 days ago." A giant screen behind the string quartet flared to life. Bank records. Trust documents. A forged signature in my mother's handwriting. An email chain titled, "How to Move the Money Before She Notices." The crowd went from shocked to ravenous. Jonah's voice stayed soft. "Fraud against a Whitlock property triggers immediate contract termination and global blacklist. The James Johnson wedding no longer has a venue, or a caterer, or flowers, photographers, or a single vendor willing to risk 7-figure litigation." Lennon made a sound like a kicked puppy. My father tried to charge the stage. 2 men in Whitlock security blazers appeared out of nowhere and escorted him back to his seat with polite, unbreakable grips. Jonah looked at my parents. "You can wire $75,000 to the account on screen in the next 10 minutes, or the felony referral hits the district attorney at 9 a.m. Monday. Your choice." My mother was openly sobbing. My father's hands shook so badly he had to dictate the password to his banker over speakerphone while 300 people watched. When the transfer cleared, Jonah handed the microphone back to the MC like nothing had happened. I leaned toward Lennon. Next time you kill me off, make sure I stay dead. 5 months later, I married Jonah on a windswept beach in Newfoundland with 20 people and 2 rescue dogs as witnesses. I wore a second-hand lace dress and boots covered in paint. He wore the same midnight blue suit and smiled like a man who had never needed to hide. We bought a crumbling lighthouse keeper's cottage on 5 acres of wild cliffs. Every weekend, we tear out rot and pour new foundations. We don't talk about my family. We don't need to. Sometimes, when the fog rolls in and the beam sweeps across the water, my phone lights up with a new number. Please, Ava. We're sorry. Let us explain. I let it ring until voicemail eats the call. Then I go back to sanding window frames next to the man who taught me the difference between being unseen and being free. Some leaks, it turns out, are meant to bring the whole house down.